My name is James Mather. I'm the sound supervisor on Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, Harry Potter and the Halbblutprinz, and Harry Potter and the Order of the Phönix. So I've been blessed to have the opportunity of working with David Yates for the last 5 years, on and off. In amongst those productions, I've also been working on Sherlock Holmes for Warner Brothers, Guy Ritchie film, and Clash of the Titans, Louis Leterrier's film, among other blockbusters. We've used a multitude of monitors to work within our cutting room environment. We do atmospheres, dialogues, effects, sound design. And so there's a whole variety of frequencies that we work with. And what we've discovered in the last 4 or 5 years is that the old monitors have been superseded by Dynaudios. And we're now finding ourselves, all of us, working to the same monitoring system. Air 6 seems to be the preferable because it's mobile, it's easy to carry, and we tend to move wherever the productions are. And it gives us a really generous, voluminous sound to work with. It's got a lovely tonality in the low end bass. It's got a neutral mid-range. The high end isn't too crunchy and toppy. It works for Foley, it works for dialogues, it works for design really well. It's nice to listen to all day. It doesn't wear you out. We're listening to a lot of sounds, whether they be quiet or loud. Our ears are working all day, and it's great to be able to have a system that gives you a good translation. It's what you want to hear. It means that when you go into the dubbing theatre to mix your tracks, you know what you want it to sound like. You've got a really good, clear, honest translation of what you want, and so you can sit in a theatre and say, yeah, I prefer it like this, I prefer it like that, can we get it like that, and you know it's going to be true. Along with working with movies like Harry Potter, I also work on sound design for some albums. I've just been working on an album with a musician called Mushroom, who used to be a Massive Attack, and that's very exciting. It's a really long-term project, something I've really enjoyed collaborating in. We've got films coming up in the near future, both here and in the States, where we'll be using a similar setup, but probably on a lighter basis. We always work in 5.1. I tend to do a fair bit of, when my time is off and I'm not actually sitting in a studio mixing, I tend to work on designing elements and recording sounds and building a library. And the library is crucial to everything we do, and quite often once you get on the payroll of a production, you have very little time to put together or go out and record stuff. So if I get the opportunity, I like to take off and go and visit places where I know I'm going to get sounds that would be hard to get otherwise. It could be called a holiday, but it's not really. So my first introduction to Dynaudios were at a studio in Bristol that were using them for doing their dubbing. I think they were using BM15s, and most people have been using JBLs up until that point and other models, and these were a breakthrough because of the digital quality that they have. The fact that you don't have to go through an A to D converter in any way, shape or form, and they're very crisp and clear, but also quite generous in their volume and weight. And we were listening to them, we were working with them a lot, and when they weren't mixing, we were being able to use these studios for sound design. And then when the smaller range came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, it just seemed to make sense to go and invest in these for your monitoring in your cutting room. So we all started looking at them as a more serious long-term prospect, and they've proved to be invaluable. And as bigger studios like Delaney and the such have invested in their monitoring systems with Mayors and other systems akin to that, the standards are just getting higher and higher, and so we have to be able to know that what we're listening to isn't going to sound too far off the mark. On a production like Harry Potter, we tend to have a big crew. We tend to work with maybe 2 dialogue editors. One will take care of ADR. They have an assistant. We'll have 3 to 4 effects editors. Maybe 2 of them will concentrate on sound design. They'll have an assistant. We'll have a Foley editor, Foley assistant. Then we'll have another Foley editor come on board where they're recording Foleys. So we can be up to 12 or 13 comfortably, just taking care of everyday sound design. On smaller productions, we may scale down to a team of 6 or 7, but it will fluctuate depending on where we are. If we're going to do a temp mix, we'll increase it a little bit. It'll fluctuate. It'll come down again. But when we get to the final mix and we're dubbing, visual effects are coming in, the crew can build up extensively. The music crew tends to be 3 or 4, perhaps more. Programmers, it can be, eventually it can be a massive crew of 25, 30 people. There's also the fact that we tend to do a lot of pre-mixing in the box. So we'll be pre-mixing within Pro Tools, but we'll be doing it in a busing system, so you'll have 7 tracks per bus, and each of those buses will come up on a single fader on a D command or D control. And so by the time we go to a stage, we've kind of got it sounding pretty much how we'd like to, in order that the director can have a listen to stuff and make comments about it without it being too raw. That's a really crucial part of what we do in terms of getting approval for sound design.